The exploration ship Harmony drifted silently through space, its hull gleaming against a backdrop of distant stars. Inside the ship, Dr. Maya Rodriguez pressed her face against the observation window, watching as a blue-green planet grew larger. Before them, the world looked peaceful from space, covered in thick forests and sparkling oceans. Beautiful, isn't it? Captain Jake Morrison said as he joined her at the window. His weathered face showed the tiredness of someone who had spent many years traveling between stars. Maya nodded, unable to look away from the planet they had named Verdania Prime. The scans show it's perfect for life. Oxygen levels are good. Temperature is mild, and those forests cover almost 70% of the surface. Any signs of intelligent life? Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. They had been studying the planet for weeks. That's the interesting part, Maya said, turning to face him. We keep picking up organized sounds from the forest areas, not random animal noises. These sounds have patterns, almost like music or language. Jake raised an eyebrow. In his 30 years of space exploration, he had learned to pay attention when his science team found something unusual. Maya was one of the best xenobiologists in the fleet, and if she thought something was important, it usually was. The ship's communication system crackled to life. Captain Morrison, to the bridge, please. We have something you need to see. Jake and Maya made their way through the ship's corridors to the bridge. The Harmony was not a large vessel, designed for exploration rather than combat. Its crew of 45 specialists had been together for 2 years, searching for new worlds that might be suitable for human settlement. On the bridge, Communications Officer Lisa Park was bent over her equipment, her long dark hair falling across her face as she worked. She looked up as they entered, excitement clear in her brown eyes. Captain, we're receiving transmissions from the planet, Lisa said, but they're unlike anything I've ever heard before. Play it, Jake ordered. The bridge filled with a strange and beautiful sound. It was not quite music, not quite speech, but something that seemed to be both. The sound rose and fell in complex patterns, sometimes high and sweet, sometimes low and rumbling. There was something almost haunting about it, as if the very trees were singing. How long have you been receiving this? Maya asked. About 6 hours, Lisa replied. It started just after dawn on the planet's surface. The sounds come from different areas of the forest, but they seem to be responding to each other. Like a conversation, Maya said quietly. That's what I thought too, Lisa said. I've been trying to run it through our translation programs, but nothing works. If this is language, it's completely different from anything in our databases. Jake studied the readings on Lisa's screen. Any visual contact with the source? That's the problem, Lisa said. Every time we send a drone near the areas where these sounds are coming from, the transmissions stop immediately. Whatever is making these sounds, they don't like our technology. Maya felt a thrill of excitement. After 2 years of finding empty worlds or planets with only simple plant life, they might have finally discovered intelligent aliens. We need to make contact, she said. Agreed, Jake said. But how? Our standard first contact protocols aren't working if they run away from our technology. The three of them stood in silence for a moment, listening to the strange music coming from the planet below. Finally, Lisa spoke up. What if the problem is that we're approaching this wrong? Sighed. We're trying to contact them with machines and technology, but what if they communicate through sound and music? What if they think our technology is threatening? Maya looked at her with interest. What are you suggesting? Lisa hesitated, then continued. I've been listening to these transmissions for hours. There's something musical about them. The patterns remind me of compositions I used to play. You're a musician? Jake asked. Lisa nodded. I trained as a violinist before I joined the fleet. I still play sometimes, in my quarters. What if instead of trying to contact them with our technology, we tried to communicate through music? Maya's eyes lit up. That's brilliant. If they communicate through sound patterns, music might be a universal language they could understand. Jake, looked skeptical. You want to make first contact with an alien species using a violin. Why not? Lisa said. Our technology scares them away. But music is something different. It's art, it's emotion, it's communication without words. Maya nodded enthusiastically. Music is mathematical too. If they're intelligent enough to create complex sound patterns, they might recognize the mathematical relationships in human music. Jake walked to the main viewing screen, which showed the planet slowly rotating below them. He had made many difficult decisions during his career, but this was certainly one of the most unusual. However, he had learned to trust his crew's expertise. "Oh, right," he said finally. "We'll try it your way, Lisa, but I want full safety protocols. You go down alone, with minimal equipment, just your violin and a communicator. If anything goes wrong, we pull you out immediately." Lisa felt her heart race with excitement and nervousness. "When do we start? Tomorrow morning?" Jake said. "Give the science team time to select the best landing site. Somewhere close to where? These transmissions are strongest, but with clear escape routes if needed." As the crew prepared for this unprecedented first contact mission, Maya found herself unable to sleep. She spent the night in the observation lounge, watching Verdania. Prime turned slowly beneath them. The planet looked so peaceful, but she knew that looks could be deceiving. They were about to attempt something that had never been tried before in human space: exploration. Somewhere in the forest below, creatures with intelligence enough to create complex sound patterns were living their lives, unaware that visitors from another world were preparing to make contact. Maya wondered what they looked like, how they lived, and whether they would be friendly or hostile to strangers. Lisa spent her sleepless night in a different way. She sat in her quarters, tuning her violin and practicing scales. She had not performed for an audience in years, and tomorrow she will be playing for the most important audience of her life. She chose several pieces to play, including some of Earth's most beautiful and peaceful compositions. As the ship's night cycle ended and artificial daylight began to fill the corridors, the crew of the Harmony prepared for a day that would either mark the beginning of peaceful contact with a new species or potentially end in disaster. But for the first time in months, there was real excitement aboard the ship. They were about to make history. The morning sun cast long shadows through the trees as the small shuttle touched down in a clearing on Verdania Prime. Lisa Park sat inside, gripping her violin case tightly. Her hands were sweating despite the cool morning air that filtered through the shuttle's ventilation system. "Landing zone is secure," reported the pilot, Sam Kelly. He had been chosen for this mission because of his steady nerves and quick reflexes. No movement detected in the immediate area. Lisa took a deep breath and checked her equipment one final time. She wore a simple jumpsuit with no visible technology except for a small communicator clipped to her collar. Her violin case was old and worn, made of brown leather that had seen many years of use. "Remember the plan," Captain Morrison's voice came through her earpiece. "Play for 30 minutes, then return to the shuttle. We'll be monitoring everything." "From orbit. Understood," Lisa replied. She looked out at the alien forest surrounding the clearing. The trees were unlike anything on Earth, with silver bark and leaves that shimmered like metal in the sunlight. Strange flowers bloomed in colors she had never seen before, and the air smelled sweet and clean. "Good luck down there," Maya's voice joined the conversation from the ship above. "Remember, if they're as intelligent as we think, they'll be curious." "About you too," Lisa nodded to herself and stood up, opening the shuttle door now. The door hissed open, and she stepped onto the soft grass of an alien world. The silence was immediate and complete. No birds sang, no insects buzzed, no small animals rustled in the undergrowth. It was as if the entire forest was holding its breath, waiting to see what she would do. She walked to the center of the clearing, her footsteps muffled by the thick grass. The trees around her rose like towers, their branches forming a natural cathedral overhead. She could feel eyes watching her, though she saw no movement in the shadows. Lisa opened her violin case and lifted out the instrument. It was a beautiful piece, made of rich brown wood that gleamed in the filtered sunlight. She had owned it since. She was 12 years old, and it felt like an old friend in her hands. She raised the violin to her shoulder and drew the bow across the strings. The first note rang out clear and pure, echoing off the trees around her. She started with a simple scale, letting the forest get used to the sound of her instrument. For several minutes, nothing happened. The forest remained silent, and Lisa began to worry that her plan would not work. Maybe the creatures were too afraid to approach. Maybe they did not understand music the way humans did. Then she heard it, a soft chittering sound from somewhere, high in the trees. She paused in her playing and listened. The sound came again, closer this time. It was not threatening, just curious. Lisa began to play again, this time choosing a gentle melody that her grandmother had taught her when she was young. The notes flowed like water, rising and falling in smooth patterns. As she played, she became aware of more sounds around her. Soft rustling in the leaves, gentle chirping noises, and what sounded almost like whispered conversations. A movement caught her eye, and she looked up to see a small furry face peering down at her from a branch, 20 feet above. The creature was about the size of an earth squirrel, with large dark eyes and silver fur that matched the tree bark. Its ears were larger than a squirrel's, and it tilted its head as it listened to her music. Lisa continued playing, trying not to make any sudden movements that might scare the creature away. More faces appeared in the trees around her. The beings looked similar to the first one, but each had slightly different markings on their fur. Some were silver, others were golden or brown. All watched her with intense curiosity. One of the creatures, braver than the others, began to climb down the tree. It moved carefully, never taking its eyes off Lisa. When it reached a branch just 10 feet above her, it stopped and made a soft trilling sound. Lisa paused in her playing and looked up at the creature. Its eyes were intelligent and alert, and she had the strange feeling that it was trying to communicate with her. She played a simple 4-note pattern and waited. The creature tilted its head, listening carefully. Then it opened its mouth and produced a series of notes that perfectly matched what Lisa had just played. The sounds were different from her violin, more like a flute or a bird song, but the musical pattern was exactly the same. Lisa felt her heart leap with excitement. This was communication. She played the 4 notes again, and once more the creature repeated them back to her. Other creatures in the trees began to join in, creating a chorus of voices that harmonized with her violin. She tried a more complex melody, a piece by an ancient earth composer that told the story of spring arriving after a long winter. The creatures listened intently, and when she finished, several of them began to sing together. Their voices blended in ways that seemed impossible, creating harmonies that made Lisa's eyes fill with tears. For the next hour, Lisa and the forest creatures created music together. She would play a phrase, and they would respond with their own interpretation. Sometimes they would start a melody, and she would try to join in with her violin. It was unlike anything she had ever experienced. The creature on the low branch grew bolder and climbed to a branch just 6 feet above her head. Lisa could see the intricate patterns in its fur and the way its whiskers twitched as it listened to her music. When she looked directly at it, the creature did not flee. Instead, it seemed to study her face with the same curiosity she felt about it. She decided to try something special. Lisa began to play a song that had been written hundreds of years ago on Earth, a piece about hope and redemption that had comforted people during their darkest times. The melody was simple but powerful, speaking of pain and loss, but also of healing and forgiveness. As she played, something magical happened. The creature above her head began to sing along, its voice weaving through her melody like a silver thread through fabric. Other creatures joined in from the trees around the clearing, their voices creating a symphony that filled the forest with beauty. When the song ended, the forest fell silent again. But this time, the silence felt different. It was not the silence of fear or suspicion, but the quiet that comes after something important has been shared. Lisa lowered her violin and looked up at the creature above her. "Hello," she said softly. "My name is Lisa." The creature tilted its head and made a gentle chirping sound that somehow seemed like a greeting. Then it did something unexpected. It began to climb down the tree, moving slowly and carefully until it reached the lowest branch, just 3 feet above Lisa's head. For a long moment, human and alien looked at each other across the vast distance between worlds. Then the creature made a decision that would change everything. It jumped down from the branch and landed on the grass just a few feet away from Lisa. She held her breath, afraid to move. The creature was even more beautiful up close, with large, expressive eyes and fur that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. It took a step toward her, then another. When it was just an arm's length away, it sat back on its hind legs and looked up at her. Lisa slowly knelt down, bringing herself closer to the creature's level. She held out her hand, palm up, in what she hoped was a universal gesture of friendship. The creature looked at her hand for a moment, then reached out with one tiny paw and gently touched her fingers. Contact. The first peaceful contact between humanity and an alien species, made possible not by technology or weapons, but by music and trust. Lisa returned to the forest clearing the next morning, her violin case in hand and her heart full of excitement. The small creature that had touched her hand the day before was waiting for her. It sat on a fallen log at the edge of the clearing, grooming its silver fur in the morning sunlight. "Hello again," Lisa said softly as she approached. The creature looked up at her and made a gentle trilling sound that she was beginning to recognize as a greeting. She had spent most of the previous night talking with Captain Morrison and Dr. Rodriguez about what had happened. The whole crew was amazed by the success of the first contact, but they all agreed that Lisa should continue slowly and carefully. "Take your time," Maya had told her. "Let them get comfortable with you. Don't try to rush anything." Lisa set up in the same spot as before and took out her violin. As she began to tune the strings, more creatures appeared in the trees around her. She counted at least 20 of them now, all watching her with bright, curious eyes. The small creature from yesterday, which Lisa had started calling Pip in her mind, moved closer. It seemed less afraid than the others, more willing to take risks. When Lisa began to play a simple melody, Pip responded immediately with a series of musical chirps. But today something different happened. As Lisa and Pip made music together, other creatures began to join in from the trees. Their voices created layers of harmony that were more complex than anything Lisa had heard the day before. It was as if they were having a musical conversation, with each voice adding something new to the discussion. Dr. Kevin Walsh, the ship's language expert, was listening to everything through Lisa's communicator. His excited voice crackled through her earpiece during a quiet moment between songs. "Lisa, this is incredible," he said. "I'm starting to hear patterns in their vocalizations. It's not just music they're making. I think they're actually talking to each other through these sounds." Lisa paused in her playing and looked around at the creatures in the trees. They were all looking at her, as if waiting for her to continue the conversation. "What do you think they're saying?" she asked quietly. "I'm not sure yet," Kevin replied. "But some of the sound patterns keep repeating. That usually means they represent specific ideas or concepts. Keep playing and I'll keep analyzing." Lisa raised her violin again and began a new piece, something slow and beautiful that expressed wonder and friendship. As she played, she watched Pip carefully. The little creature's eyes never left her face, and it seemed to be studying her expressions as much as listening to her music. When she finished the piece, Pip stood up on its hind legs and began to make a long series of sounds. The other creatures in the trees listened quietly, occasionally adding their own voices to what Pip was saying. It went on for several minutes, with different creatures taking turns to speak. "Kevin, are you getting this?" Lisa whispered. "Every word," came the reply. "This is definitely language, Lisa. Complex language. They're having some kind of discussion about you." When the creatures finished their conversation, Pip approached Lisa more closely than ever before. It came within just a few feet of where she was sitting and began to make soft, questioning sounds. Lisa had an idea. She pointed to herself and said clearly, "Lisa." Then she pointed to her violin and said, "Music." Pip tilted its head and made a sound that was almost like Lisa. Then it pointed to itself with one tiny paw and made a completely different sound, something like a musical whistle mixed with a chirp. "It's trying to tell me its name," Lisa said with excitement. "And learning yours," Kevin added from the ship. "This is remarkable. They're not just intelligent. They're actively trying to communicate with us using our methods as well as their own." Over the next hour, Lisa and Pip worked together to learn more words. Lisa taught Pip to recognize the sounds for tree, sky, music, and friend. Pip taught Lisa several sounds in return, though she had trouble making the complex musical tones that seemed to be part of their language. But the real breakthrough came when an older creature appeared at the edge of the clearing. This one was larger than the others, with fur that was almost white with age. The other creatures all became quiet and respectful when it arrived, and Lisa realized she was looking at someone important. The elderly creature moved slowly but with dignity across the clearing. It stopped about 10 feet away from Lisa and studied her carefully. Then it began to speak in the most complex series of sounds Lisa had ever heard from any of them. The melody was beautiful and sad, like a song about something precious that had been lost. When the elder finished speaking, all the other creatures began to respond. Their voices rose together in what could only be described as a song, but Lisa could tell it was much more than entertainment. This was something sacred, something that carried deep meaning for their community. Pip came closer to Lisa and began to make urgent sounds, as if trying to explain something important. It pointed toward the deeper parts of the forest, beyond where Lisa could see. Other creatures joined in, all making gestures toward the heart of the forest. "They want to show you something," Kevin's voice came through the communicator. I'm picking up excitement in their vocal patterns, but also some kind of concern or worry. Lisa looked at the elderly creature, who was still watching her with intelligent eyes. She had the feeling that this was a test of some kind. The creatures had accepted her music and her friendship, but now they were deciding whether to trust her with something more important. She stood up slowly and put her violin back in its case. Then she approached the elder, moving carefully and keeping her hands visible. When she was just a few feet away, she knelt down and bowed her head in what she hoped was a gesture of respect. The elder made a soft sound that seemed approving. Then it turned toward the forest and began to walk away. Pip ran to Lisa's side and tugged gently at her pant leg, clearly wanting her to follow. "Captain," Lisa said into her communicator, "they want me to go with them into the forest. I think they're going to show me something important." There was a long pause before Captain Morrison replied, "Lisa, we can't track you if you go too deep into the forest. The trees interfere with our signals." "I know," Lisa said, "but I think this is important. They're trusting me with something. If I don't go, we might lose this chance forever." She looked down at Pip, who was looking up at her with hope in its large eyes. The other creatures were all watching, waiting to see what she would decide. "I'm going with them," Lisa said finally. "If I'm not back by sunset, send a search party." "Be careful," Maya's voice joined the conversation. "And remember, you're not just representing yourself down there. You're representing all of humanity." Lisa picked up her violin case and followed the elder creature toward the dark forest. Pip stayed close by her side, occasionally looking up at her and making encouraging sounds. As they walked deeper into the woods, Lisa could hear the other creatures following behind them, their voices creating a soft musical backdrop to their journey. The trees grew larger and older as they went deeper, and the light became dim and green. Strange flowers glowed softly in the shadows, and Lisa could hear the sound of running water somewhere ahead. Whatever the creatures wanted to show her, it was hidden deep in the heart of their forest home dot as they walked. Lisa realized that she was about to become the first human to see something that these creatures had kept secret for who knows how long. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. She gripped her violin case tighter and followed Pip and the elder deeper into the alien woods. The forest grew darker and more mysterious as Lisa followed the elder creature deeper into the woods. Ancient trees towered above them like giants, their branches so thick that only scattered beams of sunlight reached the forest floor. The air felt different here, heavy with age and secrets. Pip stayed close to Lisa's side, occasionally making soft, reassuring sounds. The other creatures followed silently behind them, their footsteps barely making any noise on the soft moss that covered the ground. Lisa could feel the weight of their trust, and she was determined not to let them down. After walking for nearly an hour, they came to a place where the trees formed a perfect circle around a clearing. But this was unlike the open grass clearing where Lisa had first made contact. This space was filled with the most beautiful sight she had ever seen. Massive crystalline structures grew from the ground like frozen trees, reaching up toward the canopy above. The crystals were clear as glass, but seemed to glow with their own inner light. They were arranged in complex patterns that reminded Lisa of a cathedral or concert hall, with natural acoustics that seemed designed for music. "Oh my God," Lisa whispered, staring at the incredible sight before her. The elder creature moved to the center of the crystal grove and began to make a series of long, musical calls. As its voice echoed off the crystal formations, something amazing happened. The crystals began to respond, each one producing its own tone that harmonized with the elder's voice. Soon the entire grove was filled with music, unlike anything Lisa had ever heard. It was not just sound, it was pure emotion made audible. The music spoke of joy and sorrow, of birth and death, of love and loss. It told stories without words, painting pictures in Lisa's mind of places and beings she had never imagined. Other creatures emerged from the shadows around the grove. These were different from Pip and his clan. Some were taller, some shorter, some had different colored fur or larger ears. Lisa realized she was looking at different families or tribes of the Peninsula, species all gathered together in this sacred place. "Lisa, are you still there?" Captain Morrison's voice crackled weakly through her communicator. The signal was poor this deep in the forest. "I'm here," she replied quietly. "Captain, you need to see this. I'm looking at something incredible." "What is it?" Lisa struggled to find words to describe what she was seeing. "It's like a natural concert hall made of crystal. The crystals make music when the creatures sing to them. I think this might be their most sacred place." The elder creature approached Lisa and began to speak in its complex musical language. Pip translated as best he could, using the simple words he had learned from Lisa, mixed with his own musical sounds. "Tree singers," Pip said, pointing to the crystals. Old, many, many songs." Lisa looked more closely at the crystals and realized they were not just making random music. Each crystal seemed to be playing a different melody, but they were all connected, creating one massive symphony. As she listened, she began to hear patterns within the music. Repeated themes that seemed to tell specific stories. An idea began to form in her mind. "Kevin, are you getting any of this?" she said into her communicator. "Some of it," came the weak reply. "The signal keeps cutting out. What are you thinking?" "I think these crystals are some kind of recording device," Lisa said. "I think they're storing music, maybe even storing information in musical form." She approached one of the smaller crystals carefully. The elder creature watched her but did not try to stop her. When Lisa got close to the crystal, she could hear it more clearly. The music it was producing was complex and layered, with multiple melodies woven together. She took out her violin and began to play along with the crystal's song. As her instrument joined the alien melody, the crystal's glow grew brighter. Other crystals around the grove began to respond as well, their music becoming more complex and beautiful. The creatures all around the grove grew excited, chattering to each other in their musical language. Pip ran to Lisa's side and made urgent sounds, pointing to different crystals around the grove. "Songs of the gone away," Pip said, using words Lisa had taught him mixed with his own concepts. Songs from sky-far places. Lisa felt her heart racing as she began to understand what Pip was trying to tell her. These crystals were not just playing random music. They were playing songs from other worlds, other civilizations. She moved to another crystal and listened carefully to its melody. This one was different from the first, with a rhythm and structure that seemed completely alien. She tried to play along with it on her violin, and again the crystal responded by growing brighter. "Lisa, what's happening down there?" Maya's voice came through the communicator. "We're getting some kind of energy readings from your location." "The crystals are responding to my music," Lisa replied. "I think there's some kind of archive there, storing songs and music from different civilizations." As if to confirm her theory, the elder creature approached a particularly large crystal at the center of the grove. When it began to sing to this crystal, the entire grove filled with the most haunting and beautiful music Lisa had ever heard. But underneath the beauty, there was a deep sadness that made tears come to her eyes. Through her tears, Lisa began to see images in her mind. She saw great cities under alien suns, beings of light dancing among the stars, creatures of incredible beauty living in harmony with their worlds. But she also saw the same cities crumbling, the lights fading, the beautiful creatures becoming fewer and fewer until they were gone forever. "They're dying," she whispered. "The civilizations these songs come from. They're all dying or already dead." The elder creature stopped singing and looked at Lisa with eyes full of ancient sadness. It approached her and began to speak, its voice gentle but urgent. Even without understanding all the words, Lisa could feel the weight of what it was trying to tell her. Pip came to help translate. "Tree singers keep songs safe," he said. "When far sky people become gone away, songs come here. We keep songs alive." Lisa understood now. These creatures were not just intelligent beings living simple lives in the forest. They were the guardians of something precious beyond measure. The Crystal Grove was a repository of the cultural heritage of civilizations from across the galaxy. When a species faced extinction, somehow their music, their stories, their very essence found its way here to be preserved forever. "How many?" Lisa asked, looking around at the hundreds of crystals surrounding them. The elder creature made a long, mournful sound and gestured to the entire grove. Pip tried to translate. "Many, many, many," he said. "More than stars Lisa can see." The weight of this discovery hit Lisa like a physical blow. She was standing in a library of lost worlds, a museum of extinct civilizations. These simple forest creatures were the custodians of cultural treasures that represented thousands, maybe millions of years of galactic history. But as she looked more closely at the crystals, she noticed something disturbing. Many of them were dim, their light fading. Some had already gone dark completely. The elder creature followed her gaze and nodded sadly. "Tree singers becoming sick," Pip explained. "Songs getting quiet. Some songs already gone away forever." Lisa realized that she was not just witnessing something incredible. She was witnessing something that was dying. This ancient archive, this precious collection of the galaxy's cultural heritage, was in danger of being lost forever. And somewhere above them, human ships waited in orbit, unaware that they had discovered something far more valuable than any mineral or resource. They had found the memory of the galaxy itself, and it was slipping away. Lisa spent 3 more days in the Crystal Grove, learning about the incredible archive from Pip and the elder creature. Each crystal told a different story, held the music of a different world. Some were ancient beyond imagination, while others had arrived only recently as their civilizations faced their final days. On the 4th morning, everything changed. Lisa was playing her violin with one of the larger crystals when her communicator crackled to life with urgent static. Captain Morrison's voice came through, tense and worried. "Lisa, we have a problem. A big one. You need to get back to the shuttle immediately." "What's wrong?" Lisa asked, lowering her violin. "We've got company. A Dominion fleet just dropped out." of hyperspace. Admiral Victoria Cross is demanding to speak with me, and she's brought enough firepower to level the entire planet. Lisa felt her stomach drop. The Dominion was a powerful corporation that controlled much of human space. They were known for caring more about profit than people, and they had the military strength to take whatever they wanted. How much time do we have? Lisa asked. Maybe a few hours before they decide to do something drastic. Cross is already talking about mineral surveys and resource extraction. She thinks we're here to stake a claim on the planet. Lisa looked around at the Crystal Grove, at the hundreds of priceless artifacts that held the last memories of dead civilizations. If the Dominion decided to mine this world, all of this would be destroyed forever. The elder creature seemed to sense that something was wrong. It approached Lisa and made questioning sounds. Pip translated the concern in the elder's voice. Sky danger? Pip asked. Bad humans coming? Lisa knelt down next to Pip, her heart breaking as she looked into his trusting eyes. Yes, she said quietly. Bad humans are coming. They want to hurt your world. The elder creature made a long, sad sound and began to speak to the other creatures around the grove. Soon, word was spreading through their community like wildfire. Lisa could hear the fear in their voices as they realized their sacred place was in danger. Lisa, you need to get back here now, Captain Morrison's voice urged through the communicator. I can't protect you if you're not on the ship. Wait, Lisa said. An idea was forming in her mind, desperate, but possibly their only chance. Captain, what if we could show the Dominion what's really here? What if we could make them understand that this planet is worth more than any mineral deposit? Lisa, these are not reasonable people. Admiral Cross doesn't care about alien culture or music. She only cares about profit. But what if the profit was in preserving this place instead of destroying it? Lisa asked. Captain, I need more time. Just a few more hours. I can't give you what I don't have, Morrison replied. Cross is already sending survey teams to the surface. If they find you down there with the aliens, they might consider it a hostile situation. Lisa looked at Pip and the elder creature, then at the fading crystals around them. She made a decision that would either save the grove or doom them all. I'm not leaving, she said into the communicator. But I need you to do something for me. I need you to broadcast everything I'm about to do. Lisa, what are you planning? I'm going to give the performance of my life, Lisa said. And I'm going to make sure the whole galaxy hears it. She turned to Pip and the elder creature. Using the simple words she had learned in gestures, she tried to explain her plan. The creatures listened carefully, and Lisa could see understanding dawn in their eyes. The elder creature spoke to the others in the grove. Soon, hundreds of creatures had gathered around the crystals. They understood what Lisa was trying to do, and they were willing to help. Captain, are you recording this? Lisa asked as she raised her violin to her shoulder. Recording and broadcasting. On all frequencies, Morrison replied. But Lisa, I still don't understand what you're trying to accomplish. You will, Lisa said. Just make sure everyone can hear this. She began to play. But this time, she was not just playing for the creatures in the grove. She was playing for every human in the galaxy who might be listening. She started with her melody that spoke of discovery and wonder, the joy of finding something beautiful and unexpected. As her violin sang out across the grove, the crystals began to respond. One by one, they joined their voices to hers, creating a symphony unlike anything that had ever been heard. The creatures around the grove added their own voices, and soon the entire forest was filled with music that seemed to come from the very soul of the universe. But Lisa was not finished. As the music reached its peak, she began to weave in melodies from the crystals themselves. She played the songs of the lost civilizations, the music of worlds that no longer existed except in this sacred place. Each melody told a story of beauty and loss, of cultures that had reached for the stars only to fade into darkness above the planet. Aboard both the Harmony and the Dominion ships, crews stood transfixed as they listened to the broadcast. The music was more than just sound. It was emotion made audible, a direct connection to the hearts and souls of beings they had never met but somehow understood. Admiral Cross stormed onto the bridge of her flagship, angry at her crew for standing idle. "What is this noise?" she demanded. "Why has all work stopped?" But as she listened to the music coming from the planet below, even her hard heart began to soften. The melodies spoke of civilizations that had once been great, of beings who had loved and laughed and dreamed, just as humans did. And they spoke of loss, of the terrible silence that followed when those voices were still forever. On Earth and across the human colonies, people stopped what they were doing to listen. The broadcast reached news networks, personal communicators, and public channels. Families gathered around their screens, listening to music that seemed to speak directly to their souls. In the Crystal Grove, Lisa played on. Tears streamed down her face as she channeled the emotions of 1,000 dead worlds through her violin. Pip sat at her feet, adding his voice to the symphony, while the elder creature conducted the crystal chorus with graceful movements of its arms. As the music reached its climax, something unexpected happened. Throughout human space, people began to sing along. They did not know the words, but somehow they knew the melody. Children hummed the tune in their bedrooms. Adults found themselves whistling it at work. The music had become part of them, a shared experience that connected every human who heard it. When the last note finally faded, the grove fell silent. Lisa lowered her violin, exhausted but hopeful. Around the galaxy, millions of humans sat in silence, deeply moved by what they had just experienced. Then the messages began to arrive. Text communications, voice calls, and video messages poured in from across human space. People were demanding to know more about the planet and the creatures who had created such beautiful music. Scientists wanted to study the crystals. Musicians wanted to learn the alien songs. Children wanted to hear more stories about the creatures in the forest. Most importantly, politicians and business leaders began to speak out against any plans to mine or destroy the planet. The public outcry was immediate and overwhelming. No one wanted to be responsible for destroying something so beautiful and irreplaceable. Admiral Cross found herself facing a choice she had never expected to make. She could proceed with her plans and become the most hated person in human history, or she could find another way forward. Admiral Victoria Cross stood on the bridge of her flagship, staring at the communications console that had not stopped buzzing for 3 hours. Messages were pouring in from every corner of human space, and all of them said the same thing. Do not destroy the planet below. Admiral, her communications officer said nervously, "We have another priority message from Earth Central Command." Cross sighed and activated the screen. The face of General Patricia Wong appeared, and she did not look happy. "Victoria, what the hell is going on out there?" Wong demanded. "My office has been flooded with calls from every politician, scientist, and citizen in the galaxy. They're all demanding that we protect some kind of alien music archive." "General, we came here to conduct a mineral survey," Cross replied. "The planet has valuable deposits that could benefit the Dominion." "Not anymore," Wong said firmly. "The president himself has called me twice in the last hour. Public opinion has shifted completely against any mining operations on that planet. If you proceed with resource extraction, you'll be facing court martial when you get home." Cross closed the communication channel and looked out at Verdania Prime spinning slowly below them. In all her years of military service, she had never faced a situation like this. A simple alien world had somehow turned the entire human galaxy against her mission. "Admiral," her tactical officer spoke up, "we're receiving a communication request from the exploration ship Harmony." "Put them through," Cross said. Captain Morrison's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired but determined. "Admiral Cross, I'm requesting permission to return to the planet's surface to retrieve my officer." "Your officer is still down there?" Cross asked. "Yes, ma'am. Communications Officer Lisa Park is in the forest with the alien inhabitants. She's the one who made the broadcast that you've probably heard about." Cross had indeed heard about it. The music that had swept across human space like wildfire, touching hearts and changing minds faster than any political campaign ever could. "I want to meet this officer of yours," Cross said after a moment, "and I want to see these aliens for myself." An hour later, Admiral Cross found herself in a place she had never expected to be, sitting in a forest clearing on an alien world, watching a young woman play violin for a group of small furry creatures. Lisa had returned to her original clearing when she learned that Admiral Cross wanted to meet. Pip and several other creatures had come with her, curious about these new humans but ready to flee if necessary. Cross was not what Lisa had expected. The Admiral was a stern-looking woman in her 50s, with gray hair and sharp eyes. But as she listened to Lisa play and watched Pip respond with his musical chirps, something in her expression began to soften. "How long have you been able to communicate with them?" Cross asked when Lisa finished her song. "About a week," Lisa replied. "They're incredibly intelligent, Admiral. They have language, culture, and they're the guardians of something precious. Beyond measure." Cross looked at Pip, who was sitting calmly nearby. The little creature seemed to sense that this human was important, and he made a polite greeting sound. "Tell me about this archive your captain mentioned," Cross said. Lisa looked at Pip, who nodded encouragingly. Over the next hour, Lisa explained everything she had learned about the Crystal Grove and the songs of lost civilizations. She told Cross about the fading crystals and the irreplaceable cultural heritage that was slowly dying. "You're asking me to give up a mining operation worth billions of credits," Cross said when Lisa finished. "I'm asking you to help us save something worth more than money," Lisa replied. "These creatures have been preserving the memory of the galaxy for thousands of years. If we destroy this place, we'll be no better than the forces that destroyed all those other civilizations." Cross was quiet for a long time, thinking. Finally, she spoke to her communicator. "Commander Hayes, prepare a message for transmission to Earth Central Command. I'm recommending that Verdania Prime be declared a protected world under the Cultural Heritage Preservation Act." "Ma'am?" came the surprised reply. "You heard me correctly, Commander." Cross looked at Lisa and Pip. "But I have conditions. This planet will need protection, and it will need funding. The Dominion will provide both, but in return, we want to establish a research station here. We want to study these archives and learn from them." Lisa felt her heart leap with joy, but she looked at Pip to see what he thought. The little creature seemed to understand what was being discussed. He chittered quietly to the other creatures, and they responded with what sounded like agreement. "Pip says they would welcome human friends who want to learn and help preserve the songs," Lisa translated. "Then we have an agreement," Cross said. 6 months later, Verdania Prime had become the most famous planet in human space. The interspecies Cultural Preserve had been established with funding from both the Dominion and the Earth government. Scientists, musicians, and linguists from across the galaxy had come to study the Crystal Archive and learn. From the Cathara, Lisa had been appointed as the first cultural ambassador to Verdania Prime. She lived in a small research station at the edge of the forest, but she spent most of her days in the Crystal Grove with Pip and the other Cathara. The work was slow but rewarding. They had managed to stabilize many of the fading crystals using a combination of human technology and Cathara knowledge. Each saved crystal meant that another civilization's memory would survive for future generations. Dr. Kevin Walsh had made remarkable progress in learning the Cathara language. He could now hold simple conversations with the creatures, and he was working on a translation system that would allow humans and Cathara to communicate more easily. But the most amazing development was the music itself. Human musicians had begun collaborating with the Cathara to create new compositions that blended the musical traditions of Earth with the harmonic techniques of the alien creatures. These hybrid songs were becoming popular throughout human space, creating a new form of art that belonged to both species. On this particular morning, Lisa sat in her favorite spot in the Crystal Grove, playing her violin while Pip sang along. Around them, dozens of other Cathara added their voices to the harmony, while the crystals glowed with renewed strength. A group of human visitors stood at the edge of the grove, listening in wonder to the music that filled the forest. Among them were children who had come with their families to hear the songs of the lost civilizations. Their eyes were wide with amazement as they experienced something that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. Lisa smiled as she played, thinking about how far they had all come. A year ago, humans and Cathara had been strangers from different worlds. Now they were partners in preserving the cultural heritage of the galaxy. The music rose and fell around them, carrying the voices of civilizations that had been silent for millennia, but they were silent no more. Through the partnership between humans and Cathara, their songs will continue to play for generations to come. As the song reached its climax, Lisa looked up at the canopy above, where shafts of sunlight filtered through the leaves. Somewhere among the stars, other civilizations were facing their own challenges. But now they knew that if the worst happened, their songs would not be lost forever. They would find their way to Verdania Prime, where humans and Cathara would keep them safe in the Crystal Grove. Pip looked up at Lisa and made a sound that she had learned meant friend. She smiled and continued playing, adding her own voice to the eternal symphony that connected all life in the galaxy. The music would go on, and with it, the hope that understanding and cooperation could triumph over fear and greed. In the end, it was not technology or weapons that had saved Verdania Prime. It was music, friendship, and the simple recognition that some things are more valuable than any material wealth. The galaxy was a richer place because humans had chosen to listen rather than exploit, to preserve rather than destroy, and in a small clearing in an alien forest, a young woman played violin for a little creature who had become her friend, while around them the voices of 1,000 worlds sang together in perfect harmony.